They made the girl eat on the kitchen floor until the rich grandfather returned and changed everything. Emily silently swallowed the lukewarm soup, sitting cross-legged on the cold kitchen floor. At 9 years old, she had already learned that questioning why she couldn't eat at the table only brought more trouble. That's when she heard Karen's firm voice echoing through the house. "Emily! Where are you? Come here now!" The little girl stood up quickly, nearly dropping her plastic plate. She knew she couldn't delay when her stepmother called. "I'm here, Aunt Karen," she replied softly, appearing at the kitchen entrance. "How many times do I have to tell you to eat faster? Your sister Lily finished dinner a long time ago," Karen said, impatiently adjusting her dark hair. Emily glanced at the dining room, where 6-year-old Lily played with dolls, while Karen set the fine dishes on the table. The golden light from the chandelier bathed everything warmly, a stark contrast to the dim kitchen where she always stayed. "Sorry, Aunt Karen. I'll finish now," Emily murmured, returning to her spot behind the cabinets. "And stop calling me Aunt. I'm your mother now," Karen snapped, though without real interest. It was always like this. She corrected Emily out of habit, but never truly cared whether the girl obeyed or not. Maria, the housekeeper who had worked there for 3 years, watched everything from the counter where she washed dishes. Her brown eyes filled with sadness whenever she saw Emily in that situation. She wanted to help, but needed the job to support her own children in Miami. "Maria, once you're done, you can leave. Tomorrow there's plenty of laundry to do," Karen said, walking out of the kitchen without even looking at Emily. The housekeeper dried her hands on her apron and quietly approached the girl. Do you want me to warm up the soup a little? She whispered. "It's okay, Miss Maria, it's fine like this," Emily replied, forcing a small smile. Maria sighed deeply. She had worked in many homes over the years, but had never seen anything like this. When Emily's father was home, which wasn't often, Karen pretended everything was normal. But as soon as Michael left for work trips, her true colors showed. Rain began tapping against the kitchen window as Emily finished eating. She washed her own plate in the sink, as she always did, while Maria finished the rest of the cleaning. Do you have homework?" Maria asked, always concerned about the girl's studies. "I have to study for my math test," Emily answered, carefully drying the plate. "Then go study, sweetheart. I'll finish up here," Maria said, tenderly stroking the girl's hair. Emily went up to her small room at the back of the house. It was tiny and plain, with just a single bed, an old desk, and a small wardrobe. The walls were bare and white, nothing like Lily's room, which was all pink with a princess bed and dozens of toys. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. As Emily studied, Maria finished cleaning and whispered a good night through the door crack. The girl waved in response, focused on the numbers dancing across her notebook. Math was her favorite subject because numbers didn't lie or pretend to be something they weren't. Downstairs, Karen helped Lily brush her teeth in the luxurious bathroom on the main floor. The younger girl wore new unicorn pajamas, while Emily slept in an old t-shirt that had once belonged to her birth mother. "Mommy, why doesn't Em play with me?" Lily asked, making toothpaste foam. "Because she's older, sweetheart." "You don't share the same interests," replied Karen, brushing her daughter's blonde hair. "But I wanted her to play dolls with me," insisted Lily. "When she's a little older, maybe you'll understand each other better," said Karen, avoiding the subject. The truth was, Karen made a point of keeping the girls apart. She didn't want Lily to grow too attached to her half-sister, and certainly didn't want Emily influencing her daughter in any way. In her mind, the less contact between them, the better. That same night, 400 miles away in New York, Richard Miller finished packing his bags. At 68, the successful businessman had made a decision he'd been putting off for 5 years, returning to Miami to see his granddaughter. Ever since his son Michael married Karen, their father-son relationship had completely deteriorated. Richard had never hidden his disapproval of the marriage, especially so soon after the passing of Sarah, Michael's first wife and Emily's mother. "Mr. Richard, are you sure you want to make this trip without telling them?" asked Susan, his trusted housekeeper of over 20 years. Susan, It's been 5 years since I've seen my granddaughter. Michael always finds excuses to keep me from visiting. This time, I'm showing up unannounced, Richard replied, zipping his suitcase firmly. What if they're not home? Michael's away on business this week. I confirmed with his secretary. It'll be the perfect chance to get to know this Karen and see how my granddaughter is being treated. Susan shook her head, worried. She'd known Richard for decades and could tell when he was set on something. There was no talking him out of it. The next morning, Emily woke up early as usual. It was Saturday, but her routine didn't change much on weekends. She went downstairs to the kitchen and found Maria preparing breakfast. "Good morning, Maria," the girl said, rubbing her eyes. "Good morning, sweetheart. Sleep well?" Maria asked, pouring a warm cup of milk for Emily. "I did. I dreamed about Mommy again," Emily said, sitting in her usual spot on the floor. Maria's heart ached. The girl always spoke of her mother with such tenderness, even though she'd lost Sarah when she was only 4. Her memories were few but precious. "Your mother was a very special woman, Em. I'm sure she's so proud of you," Maria said, handing her a buttered roll. "Maria, why can't I eat at the table with Lily?" Emily suddenly asked. The question caught Maria off guard. It was the first time the girl had directly questioned the situation. Maria glanced around, making sure Karen wasn't nearby. "Em, sometimes grown-ups do things we don't quite understand," Maria said carefully. "But at school, everyone eats together in the cafeteria. Why is it different here?" "Every home has its own rules, sweetheart," Maria replied, hating that she couldn't tell the truth. Karen walked into the kitchen just then, still in her robe with Lily clinging to her leg. "Maria, fix Lily's breakfast, and you, Emily, once you're done there, go clean your room. It's a mess," Karen said, completely ignoring the girl on the floor. "Yes, Mum," Emily quickly corrected herself. Lily looked at her sister on the floor and scrunched her face in confusion. Even young, she sensed something wasn't right. "Mummy, why is Em eating on the floor?" the little girl asked. "Because she likes it that way, isn't that right, Emily?" Karen said, staring pointedly at her stepdaughter. Emily nodded quickly, avoiding trouble. Maria went back to washing dishes with more force than necessary, taking her anger out on the pots. "Lily, come here." "Let's have coffee at the table like grown-ups," said Karen, leading her daughter to the dining room. Once they were alone, Maria crouched near Emily. "Em, listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you," whispered Maria. "You're a very special and smart girl. Never forget that, okay?" Emily nodded, not fully understanding why Maria was speaking that way, but sensing it was important. The day passed slowly. Emily played alone in the backyard, while Karen took Lily to the mall. Maria took the opportunity to do a deep clean of the house, keeping an eye on the girl. It was late afternoon when everything changed. Maria was hanging clothes on the line when she heard the doorbell ring. Emily ran from the living room where she'd been watching cartoons on the small TV in the back. "Miss Maria, someone's at the door," the girl shouted. "I'll get it, Em," replied Maria, drying her hands on her apron. When she opened the door, Maria was met by a distinguished older man with graying hair, wearing an impeccable dark suit. He carried a small travel bag and had the kindest eyes she'd ever seen. "Good afternoon. I'm Richard Miller, Michael's father." "Is this my son's home?" the man asked politely. Maria nearly choked. She'd heard Karen speak ill of this man so many times that she could hardly believe he was standing at the door. "Mr. Richard, please come in. I'm Maria, the housekeeper," she said, stepping aside to let him pass. "Nice to meet you, Maria. Is Michael home?" "No, sir, he's away on business. It's just me and Emily. Mrs. Karen went out with Lily," Maria explained nervously. Richard smiled when he heard his granddaughter's name. Finally, he would get to know her properly after all this time. "Is Emily here?" he asked, his eyes shining. "Yes, sir, Em," Maria called. "Come here, you have a visitor." Emily came running from the living room, but stopped abruptly when she saw the elegant man. She'd never seen him before, but there was something familiar about him. "Emily?" Richard asked, crouching to her level. "I'm your grandpa, Richard." The girl's eyes widened. Karen always told her she had no grandparents, that they were all gone. Seeing this man here was like discovering Santa Claus was real. "My grandpa?" she asked shyly. Yes, my dear. I'm your father's father. I came all the way from New York just to get to know you better, Richard said, moved to see how much his granddaughter had grown. Maria watched the scene with a racing heart. She knew Karen wouldn't be happy about this surprise visit. Your son didn't tell me you were coming, Mr. Richard, Maria said, concerned. It was a last-minute decision. I hope it's not a problem if I stay a few days, Richard replied, studying Maria's expression. Of course it's no problem, sir. The house is yours, Maria said quickly. Show Grandpa your room. Emily timidly took her grandfather's hand and led him through the house. Richard observed every detail. The expensive furniture, the flawless decor, the family portraits on the wall. He noticed many photos of Karen and Lily, a few of Michael, but none of Emily. This is my room, the girl said, opening the door to the small back room. Richard stepped inside and was surprised by its simplicity. For a man accustomed to luxurious homes, this room seemed more like a storage space than a child's bedroom. It's a very cozy room, he said, choosing his words carefully. I like it. It's really quiet, Emily replied, sitting on the bed. And where does your sister sleep? Lily has the big room up front. She has a really pretty princess bed, Emily said without bitterness, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Richard felt a strange twist in his stomach. He was beginning to understand why Maria had seemed so nervous. Where do you eat dinner at home? He asked, testing his suspicions. In the kitchen. I always eat there, the girl replied naturally. Alone? With Mrs. Maria. Sometimes Lily eats in the dining room with with Aunt Karen. Richard noticed the girl's correction, and his heart tightened. He was starting to piece together a very unpleasant puzzle. Maria appeared in the doorway just then. Mr. Richard, I've prepared the guest room for you, and Mrs. Karen just called. She'll be here in an hour, she said, clearly concerned. Thank you, Maria. I'll get settled then, Richard said, standing up. When they were alone, Maria crouched near Emily. When your stepmother gets here, it's best if you stay in your room for a while, okay? Why, Mrs. Maria? Just to avoid any trouble, sweetheart, Maria said, smoothing the girl's hair. An hour later, the sound of a key in the lock announced Karen and Lily's arrival. Maria rushed to the door, trying to intercept her employer before she saw Richard. Mrs. Karen, I need to tell you something, Maria said quickly. What is it now, Maria? Lily, stop running around the house, Karen said, carrying several shopping bags. Mr. Richard is here. He arrived from New York this afternoon, Maria blurted out. Karen stopped walking and stared at Maria as if she'd spoken another language. What do you mean Mr. Richard is here? She asked, lowering her voice. He came to visit Emily. He's in the guest room, Maria explained. Karen's face changed completely. Her relaxed expression turned into something between anger and panic. Michael didn't tell me his father was coming, she whispered furiously. From what I gathered, he didn't know. It was a surprise, Maria said. Karen took a deep breath, trying to compose herself. She knew she had to be smart in this situation. Richard was a wealthy, influential man, and the last thing she wanted was to make an unnecessary enemy. Where's Emily? She asked. In her room, as you always ask, Maria replied. And has he seen her yet? Yes, ma'am. They talked a little. Karen sighed heavily. She'd have to completely change her routine for the next few days. Richard couldn't find out how she really treated her stepdaughter. Maria, prepare a special dinner tonight and call Emily to eat with us in the dining room, Karen muttered through clenched teeth. Maria's eyes widened, surprised by the sudden change. Yes, ma'am, she replied, trying to hide her satisfaction. Richard came down for dinner wearing a light blue dress shirt. He found Karen in the living room, dressed up and smiling, with Lily playing beside her. Mr. Richard, what a wonderful surprise, Karen said, forcing a warm smile. Michael didn't tell me you were coming to visit. It was a last-minute decision, Karen. I miss my granddaughter, Richard replied, studying his daughter-in-law's every move. Of course. Emily missed you so much too. She's always asking about Grandpa, Karen lied shamelessly. Richard knew that wasn't true. Emily herself had shown no recognition when he introduced himself. And this must be Lily, he said, crouching to the younger girl's level. Hi, Grandpa, Lily said shyly, hiding behind her mother. Maria made a special dinner to celebrate your visit, Karen said. Emily, come join us for dinner. Emily appeared in the doorway, clearly confused. She'd never eaten there before and wasn't sure if she was doing something wrong. You can sit here, sweetheart, Karen said, pointing to a chair beside Lily. The girl sat down slowly, eyeing the table full of fancy dishes and silverware. It felt like being in an elegant restaurant. Throughout dinner, Karen was the picture of kindness toward Emily. She served food onto the girl's plate, asked if she liked it, included her in conversations. Richard watched everything carefully, but something told him this wasn't natural. Emily, tell Grandpa how school was this week, said Karen, smiling. It was okay, I had a math test and think I did well, replied the girl, still wary of all the attention. That's great. Math was my favorite subject when I was your age, said Richard. Really? Asked Emily, perking up a little. Really? I can help you with your homework if you'd like. I'd love that, Grandpa, she said, smiling for the first time since he arrived. Maria served dinner, watching everything carefully. She knew Karen well enough to recognize that all this kindness was just an act, but she also saw how happy Emily was to finally sit at the table like a normal person. After dinner, Karen put Lily to bed while Richard talked with Emily in the living room. The girl was telling him about her favorite books when Maria approached. Mr. Richard, may I speak with you for a moment? She asked discreetly. Of course, Maria. Emily, go brush your teeth. We'll talk more tomorrow, okay? Okay, Grandpa. Good night, the girl said, giving him a shy hug. When they were alone, Maria glanced around to make sure Karen wasn't nearby. Mr. Richard, did you notice how surprised Emily was to eat at the table tonight? She asked quietly. I did. Why? Well, normally she doesn't eat in the dining room. She always eats alone in the kitchen, Maria said, choosing her words carefully. Richard leaned forward, fully attentive. Alone? What do you mean? When Mr. Michael is home, it's different. But when he travels? Maria hesitated. Go on, Maria. What happens when my son isn't here? Mrs. Karen, she treats Emily very differently from Lily. Very differently, Maria finally confessed. Richard felt anger rising, but kept his composure. Differently how? Emily always eats on the kitchen floor. She sleeps in that tiny little room. She's not allowed to play with Lily's toys. She's always treated like she's less important, Maria explained, tears in her eyes. And my son knows about this? No, sir. When he's home, Mrs. Karen pretends everything is normal. Emily has learned not to complain. Richard clenched his fists, fighting back fury. Maria, can you prove this? Sir? Can you show me how this house really runs when Michael isn't here? He asked. Maria hesitated. She knew she was risking her job, but she glanced at the photo of her own children in her wallet and decided some things mattered more. I can, sir, she said firmly. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. The next morning, Karen woke up early to keep up the act. She personally prepared breakfast and called everyone to eat together at the table. Emily walked into the dining room as if in a dream. Good morning, family, Karen said, overly cheerful. Good morning, Mom, Lily replied automatically. Good morning, Aunt. Mom, Emily said, still stumbling over the words. Richard noticed his granddaughter's hesitation and mentally filed away another piece of the puzzle. Mr. Richard, did you sleep well? Karen asked, pouring coffee for everyone. Very well, thank you. This house is quite cozy, he replied diplomatically. During breakfast, Karen kept up the performance. She cut bread for Emily, asked if she wanted more milk, and complimented the girl's school uniform. Emily was clearly confused by all the attention, but savored every moment. Emily, don't forget you have PE today. Don't leave your sneakers behind, Karen said, feigning motherly concern. Don't worry, Mom, replied Emily, testing the word in her mouth. Richard noticed how the girl hesitated before saying, Mom, as if the word didn't come naturally to her. After breakfast, Karen took both girls to school personally, something Maria knew never happened. Normally, Emily walked alone while Lily went by car. When they returned, only Richard and Maria were home. The businessman seized the opportunity. "Maria, can you show me what you mentioned yesterday?" "Are you sure, Mr. Richard?" "Absolutely. I need to see it with my own eyes." Maria led Richard to the kitchen and pointed to the corner behind the cabinets where a small cushion lay on the floor. "This is where Emily always eats, sir. Sitting on the floor with plastic plates," Maria explained. Richard crouched down and touched the cushion. It was worn from constant use. "And she doesn't complain?" "She did at first, but Mrs. Karen said if she made a fuss, she'd be punished with no dinner. Emily learned to accept it," Maria said, wiping away a tear. "How long has this been going on?" "Since Mr. Michael started traveling more, about 2 years ago. At first it was only occasionally, but it got worse," Maria replied. Richard stood and walked through the house, noticing details he'd missed the night before. There really were no photos of Emily. The toys were all concentrated in Lily's room. His granddaughter's room was too bare for a child. "Maria, do you have family?" "I have 3 children in Miami, sir. I work here to support them. And if Karen finds out you told me this, I'll lose my job, sir. But I can't pretend not to see that girl's suffering anymore," Maria said firmly. Richard was struck by the maid's courage. He knew it was a huge risk for her. "Maria, do you trust me?" "I do, sir." "Then help me document this. I need proof to show my son." Maria nodded. She'd kept some evidence over time, hoping one day someone would ask the right questions. When Karen returned from school, she found Richard reading the newspaper in the living room, and Maria tidying up as usual. Nothing seemed out of place. "Mr. Richard, I'm taking Lily to the doctor this afternoon. Just a routine checkup. Would you like to come?" Karen asked. "Thank you, but I'd rather stay home and rest. The trip tired me a bit," Richard said. "Of course, Maria can keep you company," Karen replied, clearly not wanting to leave him alone, but having no choice. "And Emily, is she going to the doctor too?" Richard asked. "Oh no, she doesn't need to. She's perfectly healthy," Karen answered quickly. "I see, maybe she can keep me company then. We can talk a little more." Karen hesitated. She didn't want to leave Emily alone with her grandfather, but she couldn't cancel Lily's appointment without raising suspicions. "Of course, I'm sure she'd love that," she said, forcing a smile. When Karen left with Lily, Richard finally had the chance to speak with Emily undisturbed. The girl came home from school and went straight to greet him. "Hi, Grandpa, how was your day?" she asked, genuinely interested. "It was good, sweetheart. And yours?" "I got a good grade on my math test. The teacher said I'm doing really well," Emily said, beaming. "That's wonderful. Was your mom happy?" Emily's expression shifted slightly. "Aunt Karen was busy when I got home, but Mrs. Maria was happy," she said. Richard noticed again how the girl avoided calling Karen Mom when she was relaxed. "Emily, can I ask you something?" Richard said, sitting on the couch. "Sure, Grandpa," she replied, sitting beside him. "How are things here at home when your dad isn't around?" The girl hesitated, as if sensing the question was important. "They're different," she said carefully. "Different how?" "When Dad is here, we eat together at the table. We watch movies together. Mom Karen is more affectionate with me," explained Emily, choosing her words carefully. "And when he's not?" Emily looked around, checking if they were truly alone. "When he's not, I eat in the kitchen. Lily eats at the big table, and I have to stay in my room more," she said softly. "Do you like eating in the kitchen?" "At first I didn't, but now I'm used to it. Mrs. Maria keeps me company," Emily replied, trying to sound positive. Richard felt his heart break. His granddaughter had learned to accept an unfair situation as if it were normal. "Emily, you know you don't have to accept poor treatment, right?" "It's not poor, Grandpa, it's just different," she said, clearly repeating something she'd been taught to say. "My dear, you deserve to be treated with kindness and respect always, not just when certain people are around," Richard said gently. Emily looked at him with curious eyes, as if she'd never considered this before. "Really? Really? You're a special girl and deserve all the happiness in the world," Richard said, hugging his granddaughter. Maria appeared in the living room then, carrying a tray with snacks. "Emily, I brought your afternoon snack," she said. "Thank you, Mrs. Maria." "Can I eat here in the living room?" Emily asked, glancing at her grandfather. "Of course you can, sweetheart," Richard replied before Maria could say anything. Emily smiled and ate her snack on the couch, chatting excitedly with her grandfather about school, friends, and dreams. It was the first time in years she'd felt truly heard and valued. When Karen returned with Lily, she found grandfather and granddaughter watching cartoons together in the living room. The scene seemed normal, but Karen sensed something was different. "How was the doctor?" Richard asked. "Everything's fine. Lily is growing up healthy," Karen replied, eyeing Emily on the couch. "That's good. And Emily told me she got a good grade on her math test today," Richard said. "Oh, really? That's nice, Emily," Karen said without much enthusiasm. Richard noticed the stark difference in Karen's reaction compared to what a proud mother's should be. Dinner followed the same pattern as the night before. Karen kept up the act, including Emily in everything and treating her with exaggerated affection, but Richard now knew it was all a performance. After dinner, when the girls went to bed, Richard asked to speak with Karen. "Karen, I'm thinking of extending my visit for a few more days. Do you mind?" Karen's face paled slightly. "Of course not, Mr. Richard. This is your home too," she said, trying to sound sincere. "Thank you. I'm really enjoying getting to know my granddaughters better, especially Emily. It's been so long since I've seen her." "Yes, she missed you very much," Karen lied again. "I imagine it must be hard for her, with Michael traveling so much," Richard said, testing her reaction. "Oh, but she's used to it. She's a very independent girl," Karen replied quickly. "Independent how?" "You know, she manages on her own, doesn't cause any trouble. Very different from Lily, who still needs more attention," Karen explained. Richard nodded, but inside, he was furious. Karen was justifying neglect as if it were something positive. "Well, I'll head to bed then. Good night, Karen," he said, standing up. "Good night, Mr. Richard." As he went upstairs, Richard passed the hallway and heard voices coming from Lily's room. It was Karen telling her daughter a bedtime story, her voice warm and patient. Then he passed Emily's small room. It was completely silent. The girl had gone to bed alone. No story, no affection, no good night. Richard knocked lightly on the door. "Emily, may I come in?" "Sure, Grandpa," she answered. He walked in and found his granddaughter lying on the narrow bed, still awake. "Can't sleep?" "I can. I was just thinking about today. It was really nice," she said, smiling. "It was really nice for me too, my dear. Want me to tell you a story?" Emily's eyes lit up. "Really?" "Of course. What kind of story do you like?" "I like stories about princesses who are brave," she said. Richard sat on the edge of the bed and began making up a story about a princess who faced hardships but never gave up on being kind and strong. Emily fell asleep smiling, feeling truly cared for the first time in years. The next day, Richard decided to test his suspicions. Early in the morning, he pretended to go out for a walk. "Karen, I'm going to take a stroll around the neighborhood. Get to know the area," he said. "Want me to come with you?" she asked, clearly nervous. "No, thank you. I'd rather go alone. I'll be back for lunch," Richard replied. He walked out the front door but circled around the house and entered through the kitchen where Maria was preparing breakfast. "Maria, she doesn't know I'm here. I want to see what happens naturally," he whispered. Maria nodded and continued her tasks as usual. Emily came down for breakfast and automatically went to her little corner in the kitchen. Maria poured her milk and coffee into a plain mug and placed buttered bread on a plastic plate. "Good morning, Em," Maria said. "Good morning, Miss Maria. Where's Grandpa?" the girl asked, sitting on the floor. "He went for a walk, sweetheart." Karen appeared in the kitchen with Lily, who was wearing a new unicorn pajama set. "Maria, prepare Lily's breakfast." "At the dining table," Karen said, not even glancing at Emily on the floor. "Yes, ma'am," Maria replied, exchanging a quick look with Richard, who was watching from hiding. "Emily, once you're done there, go tidy your room. It's a mess," Karen said coldly. "Okay, Mom," Emily replied softly. "And stop calling me Mom when no one's around to hear." "You know very well I'm not your mother," Karen snapped. Richard felt his blood boil. He was witnessing firsthand the cruelty his granddaughter faced daily. Sorry, Aunt Karen, Emily corrected herself, lowering her head. And hurry up with that. We don't have all day, Karen said, leaving the kitchen with Lily. Maria approached Emily, who was eating in silence. Your grandfather seems like a very kind man, she whispered. He is, Miss Maria. He told me a story last night before bed. It was the first time anyone's ever done that, Emily said with a sad smile. Richard had to step away to keep from exploding right then. His 9-year-old granddaughter had never been told a bedtime story. It was unacceptable. When Karen came down to take the girls to school, Richard observed the glaring difference in treatment. Lily was lovingly led by the hand to the car. Emily was simply told she had to walk to school alone. Emily, don't be late today. And remember, you have homework when you get back, Karen said sharply. Okay, Aunt Karen, the girl replied, grabbing her backpack. Bye-bye, Lily. Mommy loves you so much. Karen cooed to her younger daughter, showering her with kisses. Emily watched the scene and simply waved, accustomed to the difference in treatment. After they left, Richard reappeared in the kitchen. Maria, I saw everything, he said, visibly shaken. I'm sorry you had to witness that, Mr. Richard, Maria said, wiping her eyes. Don't apologize. You're the only person in this house who cares about my granddaughter. I need your help documenting this. What do you want me to do? Do you have a phone that records video? Yes, sir. When Karen gets back, I want you to discreetly film how she treats Emily when she thinks I'm gone. Can you do that? Maria hesitated for a moment, knowing she was risking everything. Yes, sir, I can. That girl deserves justice, she said firmly. Maria, after all this, you won't be left without a job. I promise you that, Richard assured her. When Karen returned from dropping Lily off at school, Richard pretended he had just come back from his walk. How was your walk, Mr. Richard? She asked. Very nice. The neighborhood is beautiful. Where's Emily? She went to school. Lily had to go early today for a special project, Karen lied. Richard knew it wasn't true but said nothing. The day passed slowly as he observed every detail of the house and Karen's behavior. When the girls came back from school in the afternoon, Richard was in the living room reading. Lily ran to hug her mother, who welcomed her warmly. Emily walked in quietly and waved at her grandfather. Hi, Grandpa, she said, smiling. Hi, my dear. How was school? It was good. The teacher praised my drawing, Emily shared. How wonderful. Can I see it? Emily took the drawing from her backpack and showed it to her grandfather. It was a picture of a happy family, a man, a woman, and 2 girls holding hands. This is my family, she explained. And who are these people? This is my dad, this is my mum who lives in heaven, this is me, and this is Lily, Emily said, pointing to each figure. Richard noticed Karen wasn't in the drawing. To the girl, her real family was just her father, her sister, and the memory of her birth mother. It's a very beautiful drawing, Emily, Richard said, moved. Karen watched the conversation with irritation, but held back because of her father-in-law's presence. Emily, go do your homework. And afterward you can help Maria in the kitchen, she said coldly. Can I do my homework here in the living room? Emily asked timidly. No, your room is better for focusing, Karen replied quickly. Richard stepped in. Karen, if you don't mind, I'd like Emily to do her homework here. I can help her if she needs it. Karen couldn't refuse without seeming cruel. Of course, Mr. Richard. If it's not a bother, she said with a forced smile. Emily sat on the couch beside her grandfather and opened her books. It was the first time she'd done homework in the living room, and she was radiant. Richard helped her with math and discovered his granddaughter was very smart and studious. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. During dinner, Karen kept up the act, but Richard sensed the growing tension. She was clearly uncomfortable with his prolonged presence. Mr. Richard Michael called today. He said he'll be back on Thursday, Karen informed him. That's good, it'll be great to see him, Richard replied. He was surprised when he heard you were here. He asked if we'd planned the visit, Karen said, testing his reaction. I told him it was a spontaneous decision. I hope it didn't bother him. Of course not. He was just worried if we were taking good care of you, Karen lied. Richard knew Michael had probably been annoyed by his presence, but that didn't worry him anymore. He had more important matters to resolve. After dinner, when the girls went to bed, Richard had a difficult conversation with himself. He knew he'd have to confront the situation head-on, even if it caused greater family conflict. The next morning, Richard put his plan into action. He pretended again that he was leaving early. "Karen, I'm meeting a friend for lunch. I'll be back in the afternoon," he said. "All right, Mr. Richard. Should we keep lunch ready for you?" "No need, thank you." He walked out the front door, but Maria was already prepared. As soon as Karen relaxed and returned to her usual behavior, Maria began recording discreetly. The video captured Karen forcing Emily to eat on the floor, speaking harshly to the girl, ignoring her attempts to converse and treating her like a nuisance. The contrast with the affection shown to Lily was shocking. When Richard returned that afternoon, Maria discreetly showed him the videos. He was even more outraged, but knew he now had the evidence he needed. "Maria, you're very brave. I know this wasn't easy for you," he said. "Emily deserves this, Mr. Richard. That girl has a heart of gold and doesn't deserve to suffer like this," Maria replied. "She won't suffer much longer, I promise." That night, Richard called some contacts in Miami. As a successful businessman, he knew family law attorneys. He explained the situation and asked for guidance on how to proceed legally. The lawyer was clear. With the evidence Richard had gathered, there were grounds to challenge Emily's custody and demand immediate changes for the child's well-being. "Dr. Anderson, I need you to come here on Thursday. My son returns from his trip and we'll need to have a very serious conversation," Richard said over the phone. "I'll be there, Mr. Richard. And sir, based on our discussion, I believe we did the right thing by documenting these situations." Thursday came quickly. Michael returned from his trip in the late afternoon, tired and unsuspecting. He found his father in the living room with Emily, who was doing homework. "Dad, what a surprise to see you here," Michael said without much enthusiasm. "Hi, Daddy," Emily shouted, running to hug him. "Hi, sweetheart. How are you?" Michael asked, embracing the girl. "I'm good. Grandpa's helping me with math, and guess what, Daddy? He tells me bedtime stories," Emily said excitedly. Michael looked at his father in surprise. He'd never seen Emily so animated. "That's great, honey. Dad, can we talk?" Michael said. "Of course." "Emily, keep working on your homework. I'll be back to help," Richard replied. The two men went to Michael's office. The tension was palpable. "Dad, why didn't you tell me you were coming?" Michael asked, closing the door. "Because I knew you'd make an excuse to keep me away," Richard answered bluntly. "That's not true." "Michael, when was the last time you spent more than 2 days straight at home?" Richard interrupted. "I work, Dad. I need to provide for my family. And while you provide financially, who's looking after your daughter's emotional well-being?" Michael grew irritated. "Karen takes great care of the girls. Emily is growing up healthy and happy." "Happy?" Richard laughed bitterly. "Michael, your daughter eats on the kitchen floor when you're not home." "What?" Michael stopped pacing. "You heard me. Your wife forces Emily to sit on the floor like an animal while Lily eats at the table with porcelain dishes." "Dad, that's ridiculous. Karen would never do such a thing." "It's not ridiculous, Michael. It's the truth. And I have proof." Richard pulled out his phone and showed the videos Maria had recorded. Michael watched in silence, his face growing paler by the second. The footage clearly showed Karen treating Emily with coldness and cruelty, forcing her to eat on the floor, speaking harshly, and ignoring the child's emotional needs. "My God," Michael whispered. "There's more, son. Your daughter doesn't have a single photo on the walls of this house. She sleeps in a tiny room that looks like a storage closet. She walks to school alone while her sister gets driven. And worst of all, she doesn't even know how to call Karen Mom naturally anymore." Michael sank heavily into a chair, running his hands over his face. "How did I not see this?" "Because you chose not to, Michael. You chose to believe your wife's lies because it was easier than facing the truth. But she always told me that Emily was rebellious, that she preferred to be alone. And you believed it because you wanted to. Your 9-year-old supposedly prefers to eat alone on the floor? Michael, where was your head?" Michael stood up abruptly, anger and guilt mixing together. "I need to talk to Karen now." "Wait," said Richard, holding his son's arm. "Before you do anything rash, I want you to know I'm not just here as a worried grandfather. I brought my lawyer." "Your lawyer?" "Dr. Anderson arrived this afternoon. He's at the hotel. If necessary, we'll legally challenge Emily's custody." Michael was stunned. "Dad, are you threatening to take my daughter from me?" "I'm protecting my granddaughter from emotional abuse. If you don't take the necessary steps, I will." Michael took a deep breath, trying to process everything he'd learned. "What do you want me to do?" "I want you to be a father, Michael. To protect your daughter, to put her well-being above everything else." Just then, there was a knock at the office door. "Michael, can I come in?" It was Karen's voice. The two men exchanged glances. "Come in," Michael said. Karen opened the door with a rehearsed smile. "Sorry to interrupt, but dinner's ready, and the girls are asking for Daddy," she said. "Karen, we need to talk," Michael said, his voice more serious than usual. "Now? But dinner." "Now," Michael said firmly. Karen sensed something was off. She looked at Richard, who watched her with a stern expression. "Fine. What do you want to talk about?" she asked, trying to stay composed. Michael held up his phone and showed her one of the videos. The color drained from Karen's face instantly. That was taken without my knowledge," she protested. "So you don't deny it's true?" Michael asked. "Michael, you don't understand. Emily is a difficult child. I was just—" "You were what, Karen?" "Emotionally torturing a 9-year-old, Michael snapped. "It's not torture, she needs to learn discipline." "Discipline?" Richard stood up. "Forcing a child to eat on the floor is discipline." Karen realized she was cornered, and her true nature began to show. "You have no idea how hard it is to deal with that girl. She's always been strange, always clingy. Ever since I came into this house, she's tried to compete with me for Michael's attention. She was 4 when you came, a child who had just lost her mother," Michael shouted. "And I tried to be a mother to her, but she never accepted me, always talking about Sarah, always asking about her real mother." "Because Sarah was her real mother," Richard bellowed. "Well, now I'm her mother. And if you don't like my methods—" "Your methods are emotional abuse," Michael said, his voice shaking with anger. Karen realized she'd gone too far. "Michael, sweetheart, you're overreacting. I love Emily like she's my own—" "Liar," Michael exploded. "You just made it clear you've always seen her as a burden." "That's not true. I only meant—" "Enough, Karen," Michael cut her off. "It's over. I don't want to hear any more of your lies." Karen began to panic. She knew she was losing control. "Michael, you can't believe them. Your father has always hated me. He's lying to tear us apart." "The evidence is clear, Karen. There's no denying it," Richard said coldly. "Michael, think about Lily. Are you really going to destroy our family over that girl?" The words slipped out before she could stop them. The silence that followed was deafening. "That girl?" Michael repeated slowly. "You're talking about my daughter." Karen realized the terrible mistake she'd made. "I didn't mean it like that. It was just—" "That's exactly how you meant it," Michael said, and he just showed his true feelings. At that moment, a small voice came from the door. "Daddy?" Everyone turned. Emily was standing at the entrance of the office, her eyes wide with confusion and fear. "Emily, sweetheart," began Michael. "I heard you yelling. Is everything okay?" the little girl asked. Karen seized the opportunity to try to turn the situation around. "Of course everything's fine, honey. The adults were just talking," she said, forcing a smile. But Emily looked directly at her and for the first time in her life didn't accept the lie. "You're not my mum," the girl said softly. The room fell completely silent. "What?" asked Karen, shocked. "You're not my mum." "My mum's name was Sarah, and she really loved me," said Emily, with a courage no one expected. "Emily, how dare you?" "Enough, Karen," shouted Michael. "No more lies, no more manipulation, no more abuse." Emily ran into her father's arms, and he held her in a protective embrace. "Daddy, why is she mean to me?" the girl asked, finally allowing herself to be vulnerable. "Because Daddy was an idiot, sweetheart. But that's going to change now, I promise," said Michael, tears in his eyes. Richard watched the scene with a heart both broken and relieved. Finally, the truth had come out. Karen was in shock. Her entire facade had crumbled in minutes. "Michael, you can't be serious. We have a family. Think about Lily." "I am thinking about both my daughters, and you've mistreated one of them for years," said Michael, still holding Emily. "But we can fix this. I can change." "Karen, it's over. I want you to pack your things and leave this house," Michael said firmly. "You can't kick me out. This is my house too." "Actually, it's not," said Richard. "This house is in my son's name and was bought with money from the inheritance Sarah left for Emily." Karen paled even more. She knew she had no legal claim to the property. "What about Lily? Are you going to keep me from seeing my daughter?" she asked desperately. "Lily will always be your daughter." "But you won't live in this house anymore," said Michael. "Daddy, where's Lily?" asked Emily. "She's in her room watching cartoons," Karen answered automatically. "I'll get her. She needs to know what's happening," said Michael. When Michael left the office with Emily, Karen turned to Richard. "You did this on purpose. You always wanted to tear us apart," she accused. "I just protected my granddaughter." "Something you should have done too," Richard replied calmly. "That girl has always been a problem from day one." "The problem was never Emily, Karen. The problem was always you," said Richard. Michael returned with both girls. Lily looked confused, but Emily was calmer, holding tightly to her father's hand. "Girls, we need to talk about some changes happening in our family," said Michael, kneeling to their level. "What changes, Daddy?" asked Lily. "Mommy is going to live somewhere else for a while, but you two will still be sisters and will keep living here with me," he explained. "Why, Mommy?" Lily asked Karen. Karen looked at her daughter and for the first time seemed genuinely sad. "Because Mommy did some wrong things, sweetheart. And now I need to fix them," she said, kneeling to hug Lily. "Will you come back?" the younger girl asked. "I don't know, darling. But I'll always love you so much," said Karen, kissing her daughter. Emily watched the scene with mixed feelings. Despite everything, she didn't want Lily to suffer. "Lily," Emily whispered, "I'll take care of you." The younger girl looked at her sister and nodded, though she didn't fully understand what was happening. Karen packed her bags that same night. Michael arranged for her to stay temporarily in an apartment he would rent until she found her own place. "Michael, I'm sorry," said Karen before leaving. "I'm sorry too, Karen. I'm sorry I let this go on for so long," he replied. After Karen left with Lily to spend the first night in the temporary apartment, the house felt strangely silent. Emily was on the living room couch with Michael and Richard. "Daddy, can I eat at the table all the time now?" she asked timidly. "My dear, you'll never eat on the floor again." "Never," said Michael, hugging her tightly. "And can I put pictures of Mommy Sarah in my room?" "You can put pictures of your mother anywhere in the house. This is your home too," Michael said. "And will Grandpa still tell stories?" "If he wants to, whenever he's here," Michael replied, looking at his father. "Of course I will, my dear, and now I'll visit you much more often," Richard promised. Maria appeared in the living room bringing tea for everyone. "Maria, thank you for taking care of Emily all these years, and for having the courage to tell the truth," said Michael. "Mr. Michael, this girl always deserved love and care. I'm glad she finally has it," Maria answered, wiping her eyes. "Maria, I know you have family in Miami. If you'd like, I can arrange a job for you there, close to your children," Richard offered. "Thank you, Mr. Richard, but if you don't mind, I'd like to stay here. Someone needs to look after these girls, and I've grown used to them," Maria said. "You'll always be welcome here, Maria," Michael replied. In the weeks that followed, life in the house changed completely. Michael drastically cut back on work trips, making it a priority to be present for his daughters. Lily visited her mother on weekends but always returned home excited. Emily blossomed like a flower, finally receiving sun and water. Her grades at school improved even more. She made new friends, and for the first time in years she smiled constantly. Her room was renovated. She got a new bed, colorful furniture, and most importantly, pictures of her mother Sarah all over the walls. Michael also put up photos of Emily throughout the house, correcting years of invisibility. Meals became special family moments. Emily sat at the main table, used the nice dishes, and actively joined in conversations. Maria often dined with them, as she was now treated as part of the family. Richard kept his promise and began visiting Miami at least once a month. He always brought new books for Emily and spent hours talking with her about her dreams and plans. Dr. Anderson, the lawyer, helped formalize the new family arrangements. Karen kept shared custody of Lily, but it was established that she couldn't live in the same house as Emily without court supervision. Over time, Karen began therapy to understand and correct her behavior. The process would be long, but it was a necessary first step. 6 months later, Michael threw a special birthday party for Emily. It was her 10th birthday, and it would be the first party of her life. The house was decorated with colorful balloons. There was a big cake with 10 candles, and several school friends were invited. Emily wore a new dress she had picked out herself. "Make a wish, sweetheart," said Michael, lighting the candles. Emily closed her eyes and thought. When she opened them, she blew out all the candles at once. "What did you wish for?" Lily asked, curious. "I wished for all the children in the world to have a family that truly loves them," Emily said. Richard, who was taking pictures of everything, had to stop to wipe his eyes. "And you, Em? Do you feel like you have a family that loves you?" Maria asked. Emily looked around, her father, who was now always present, her grandfather, who had come from far away to protect her, Maria, who had always been her silent defender, and even Lily, who now played with her like a real sister. "Yes, I do, Mrs. Maria. I have the best family in the world," she replied, beaming. Michael approached his daughter and hugged her. "Em, Dad wants to apologize for all the years I didn't protect you the way I should have," he said. "Dad, you didn't know. And now you're here," she replied, hugging him back. "I promise I'll never let anyone treat you badly again. You're my daughter, and I love you more than anything," Michael said. "I love you too, Dad." Richard watched the scene with deep satisfaction. His decision to confront the situation had completely changed his granddaughter's life. That night, after all the guests had left, Emily was in her new room organizing the gifts when Michael came in to say goodnight. "Dad, can I ask you something?" she said. "Of course, sweetheart." "Why didn't Aunt Karen like me?" Michael sighed. He knew this question would come one day. "Em, sometimes adults have problems that have nothing to do with children. Karen was afraid you'd take her place in my heart," he explained. "But there was room for everyone, wasn't there?" "Exactly. A heart always has room for everyone. She just didn't understand that." "And now, do you still like her?" "I care about Karen as Lily's mother, but I can't trust her to take care of you anymore. And that's okay," Michael said. "Okay, Dad, I understand. Em, I want you to know that none of what happened was your fault. You've always been a wonderful girl, and anyone would be lucky to have you as their daughter." "Thank you, Dad. Good night." "Good night, my princess." Michael was leaving the room when Emily called out, "Dad?" "Yes? Thank you for letting Grandpa into our lives. He saved us." Michael smiled and nodded. She was right. Richard had saved the whole family. A year later, the transformation was complete. Emily was in 6th grade, one of the top students in her class, and had become class president. She had many friends and participated in extracurricular activities. Lily, now 8, had adjusted well to the new family dynamic. She visited her mother regularly, but was happy living with her father and sister. The bond between the two girls had grown much stronger. Michael had found a balance between work and family. He still traveled, but much less, and always scheduled his time to be present for his daughter's important moments. Karen continued therapy and had shown some progress. She still couldn't be alone with Emily, but at least she acknowledged her mistakes and was working to change them. Maria had become much more than a housekeeper. She was considered part of the family and had a say in household decisions. Her own children visited during holidays and were welcomed as family. Richard had kept his promise to visit more often. He had even bought an apartment in Miami to be closer to his granddaughters. His relationship with Michael had grown much stronger after the crisis. One Sunday afternoon, the whole family was gathered in the backyard. Michael grilled, Maria prepared salads, Richard played with the girls, and even some neighbors had joined the impromptu gathering. Emily, now 11, watched everything with a peaceful smile. It was hard to believe that just 2 years earlier, she had been eating alone on the kitchen floor. "What are you thinking about, sweetheart?" Michael asked, walking over. "I was thinking about how life can change, Dad. How sometimes bad things happen, but then everything gets better," she said. "That's true, and you know what I learned from all this?" "What?" "That family isn't just who you're born with. Family is who chooses to stay together and care for each other," said Michael, looking at Maria and Richard. "I agree, Dad. Now our family is complete." Richard stepped closer to them, holding Lily in his arms. "What were you talking about?" he asked. "About family, Grandpa," Emily replied. "Ah, my favorite topic," he said with a smile. "Grandpa, do you regret coming to visit us that day?" Emily asked. "Regret it? My dear, it was the best decision I ever made. Imagine if I had stayed in New York and never found out what was happening. But it must have been hard to fight with Dad and Aunt Karen." "It was hard, yes, but some fights are worth it, Em, especially when it's to protect the people we love," Richard explained. "And now everything's okay? Now everything's great, better than I could have imagined." Maria joined the group, drying her hands on her apron. "The salad's ready. Can we eat?" "Of course, Maria. Come on, girls," said Michael. Everyone sat at the large table in the backyard. Emily naturally took her place, joining the conversations, laughing at the jokes, and feeling completely included and loved. During lunch, Lily asked an unexpected question. "Daddy, when I grow up, can I choose where I want to live?" "Why do you ask, sweetheart?" "Because I want to live here with you forever. I like visiting Mom, but this is my real home," the little girl said. Michael and Richard exchanged a meaningful look. Lily had come to her own conclusions about where she felt happiest and safest. "Of course, sweetheart, this will always be your home," Michael said. "And mine too?" Emily asked, still needing reassurance sometimes. "And yours too, Em." "Forever," Michael said, taking both daughters' hands. After lunch, the children played in the yard while the adults cleaned up. Richard took the chance to talk to Maria. "Maria, I want to thank you again for everything you did," he said. "Mr. Richard, I'm the one who should thank you for giving me the chance to tell the truth. Sometimes I think about what might have happened if you hadn't shown up. I don't even like to imagine, but what matters is everything worked out." "And how are the legal matters?" Maria asked. "Dr. Anderson got everything formalized. Michael has full custody of Emily, and Karen has shared custody of Lily, but with some restrictions," Richard explained. "What if she wants to come back home? Only with court approval and proof she's gone to therapy and truly changed. For now, that's far from happening. I'm glad. Emily deserves all the protection in the world." "She does, and she'll have it as long as I'm alive." In the afternoon, Richard had to return to New York. Goodbyes were always hard, but now he knew Emily was safe. "Grandpa, when are you coming back?" Emily asked, hugging him. "In 3 weeks. And this time I'll stay a whole month," he promised. "Really? A whole month?" "Really. I'm thinking of retiring and spending more time here with you all." "That would be amazing, Grandpa." "Then it's settled. I'll start organizing everything to move to Miami for good," Richard said. Michael was surprised and moved by his father's decision. "Dad, are you sure? Your whole life is in New York." "My life is where my family is, Michael, and my family is here," Richard said. A few months later, Richard did move to Miami. He bought a house 2 blocks from Michael's and settled in the city. His constant presence brought even more stability and happiness to the whole family. Emily, now 12, was finishing elementary school with excellent grades. She had become a confident, communicative, and happy girl. She was part of the student council and helped classmates struggling with math. One afternoon, she was doing homework at the living room table when she got an unexpected call. "Hello?" she answered. "Emily, it's Aunt Karen." Emily was surprised. It had been over a year since they'd spoken directly. "Hi, Aunt Karen." I wanted to apologize for everything I did to you," said Karen, clearly emotional. "It's okay, Aunt Karen." "No, it's not okay. I was very cruel to you, and there's no excuse for that. You were just a child who needed care and love, and I denied you that." Emily stayed silent, unsure what to say. "Em, are you still there?" "Yes, I am. I want you to know I've been in therapy for over a year. I'm trying to understand why I acted that way and how I can be a better person. That's good, Aunt Karen. I know you might never forgive me, and I understand. But I wanted you to know I'm truly sorry from the bottom of my heart. Emily thought for a moment. Aunt Karen, I forgave you a long time ago. Holding on to anger only hurts us, she said, with impressive maturity. Karen began to cry on the other end. You're a very special girl, Em, more special than I deserved. Thank you, Aunt Karen. Can I see you someday? Just to talk? Emily hesitated. Maybe, but only if Dad and Grandpa agree. Of course, thank you for answering, Em. You're welcome, Aunt Karen, bye. Bye, sweetheart. When Michael got home, Emily told him about the call. How did you feel talking to her? He asked. Strange at first, but then I was happy she's trying to do better, said Emily. Do you want to see her? I don't know yet, maybe someday, but I'm in no rush. You don't have to rush. If you ever decide you want to, I'll arrange a supervised meeting, okay? Okay, Dad. Thank you. That night at dinner, Emily told the whole family about Karen's call. The general reaction was cautious but positive. It's a sign she's really trying to change, said Richard. But that doesn't mean we should let our guard down, added Maria. Of course not, Michael agreed. Em is safe and happy now. Any changes have to be very carefully considered. What does Lily think about all this? Asked Emily. Lily doesn't know about the call yet. I'll talk to her tomorrow, said Michael. Dad, can I be there when you tell her? Emily asked. Of course, sweetheart. You're sisters, and you should face this together. The next day, Michael talked to both daughters about Karen's call and the possibility of a future meeting. Mom called you, Em? Asked Lily, surprised. She did. She wanted to apologize. And you forgave her? I did, Lily. But forgiving doesn't mean I'll forget, or that things will go back to how they were. I get it. You're very brave, Em. Why? Because it's hard to forgive someone who hurt you. But you did it. Michael watched the conversation between his daughters with pride. Both had matured a lot and developed a strong sisterly bond. Girls, how about we plan a family trip for the next vacation? He suggested. Where to, Dad? Asked Lily. How about the beach? We could rent a house for a week and bring Grandpa and Maria. I'd love that, said Emily. Me too, Lily agreed. Then it's settled. I'll start planning. The family trip became a milestone in their new dynamic. Richard, Michael, Maria, Emily, and Lily spent a week at the beach, creating memories that would last forever. Emily built sandcastles, swam in the ocean, played volleyball, and had fun like a normal kid. Seeing her genuine happiness moved all the adults. Grandpa, thank you for saving me, she said one night as they walked on the sand. I didn't save you, my dear. You saved yourself. I only helped a little, replied Richard. How so? You never let cruelty turn you cruel too. You always kept your heart kind, even through hard times. That's very rare and special. I learned from Mrs. Maria and from memories of my mother. They always told me love is stronger than anger. And they were right. Look at you now, happy, surrounded by people who love you, doing well in school, making friends, all because you chose not to let pain consume you. Sometimes I still feel sad when I remember what happened. It's okay to feel sad sometimes. What matters is not letting sadness stop you from being happy. I'll remember that, Grandpa, and I'll always be here to remind you when you forget. On the last night of the trip, the whole family gathered on the porch of the rented house to watch the sunset. Emily sat between her father and grandfather, with Lily in her lap and Maria by her side. Dad, can I confess something? Emily said suddenly. Of course, sweetheart. When I was little and ate on the kitchen floor, I always dreamed of having a real family one day, but I never imagined it could be as wonderful as this. And why is our family so wonderful? Michael asked. Because we chose each other. We decided to love and care for one another, even when it was hard, she replied. Exactly, my dear. Family isn't just about blood. It's about choice, love, and dedication, Richard said. And you chose me, even when I was difficult sometimes. Em, you were never difficult. You've always been perfect, just the way you are, Maria said. Thank you, Mrs. Maria, for never giving up on me. I'll never give up my child. Never. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, Emily stayed on the porch a little longer, gazing at the stars. Michael came to join her. Can't sleep? I can. I just wanted to savor this moment a little more, she said. Are you happy? So happy, Dad, happier than I ever thought I could be. I'm happy too, Em. I'm sorry it took me so long to realize what was happening. Dad, you don't have to apologize anymore. What matters is that you realized and changed everything. That's true. And now our family is strong and united. Forever. Forever, my princess. They stayed there in silence for a few more minutes, just enjoying each other's company and the peace of the moment. When they returned to Miami, life continued its positive routine. Emily was in 7th grade and more involved in school activities than ever. She had become a little leader at school, always helping classmates and participating in social projects. One day, the teacher made a special announcement to the class. Everyone, the school is entering an essay contest about family resilience. If you'd like to participate, you can write about a family experience that represented growth and learning, the teacher explained. Emily was immediately drawn to the topic. She knew exactly what she wanted to write about. At home, she discussed the idea with her family. Can I write about our story? She asked. Of course, sweetheart. But are you sure? It's a very personal story, Michael said. I'm sure. I think our story could help other families going through similar struggles. Then write it, Em. It'll be a wonderful essay, Richard encouraged. Emily spent a week working on the essay. She wrote about the pain of feeling rejected, her grandfather's courage in confronting the situation, her father's remorse, and the forgiveness she learned to give. The title was How My Family Learned That True Love Accepts Nothing Less Than Respect. When she read it aloud to the family, everyone was moved. Maria cried, Richard applauded, and Michael hugged her proudly. Em, this is beautiful. You have a gift for writing, said Michael. Do you think I could win the contest? Whether you win or not, you've already succeeded by turning a painful experience into something that can help others, replied Richard. A week later, the school called with the news. Emily had won first place in the contest. Her essay would be published in the local newspaper, and she would receive a small scholarship. The whole family attended the award ceremony. Seeing Emily on stage reading her essay to a full audience was an indescribable moment of pride for everyone. After the ceremony, several people approached the family to praise Emily's courage and maturity. Your daughter is very special, one woman told Michael. Thank you. She's always been special. I just took a while to see it, he replied. Your story moved me deeply. I'm also going through family troubles, and your essay gave me hope, someone else told Emily. I'm glad I could help. Remember, there's always a solution when people are willing to talk and change, she answered. When they got home, they threw a small celebration. Maria baked Emily's favorite cake and Richard bought flowers for his granddaughter. Em, I'm so proud of you, Richard said. Thanks, Grandpa. But you know what? I didn't write that essay to win the contest. No? Then why? I wrote it to show that our family is special, that we turned something bad into something beautiful. And we really did, my dear. A few months later, Emily turned 13. This time, the party was even bigger, with many friends from school and the neighborhood. During the celebration, Lily gave an emotional speech. Everyone, I want to talk about my sister Emily. She's the bravest person I know. She went through hard things but never became mean or bitter. She taught me that we can choose to be happy, even when things aren't going well. Em, thank you for being my sister. Emily hugged Lily with tears in her eyes. Their bond had become one of the most precious things in her life. Lily, you've taught me so much too. You showed me it's possible to love without jealousy, and that real sisterhood has nothing to do with who's more important. Thank you for always accepting me. The party stayed lively late into the night. When everyone left, the family gathered in the living room for a more intimate moment. Em, what do you want for your future? Michael asked. I want to study hard and maybe become a psychologist or social worker. I want to help other kids going through family problems, she replied. What a beautiful dream, my daughter. And I want our family to stay like this, united, happy, and always supporting each other. It will, Em, forever, Richard promised. That night, as Emily was getting ready for bed, she paused in front of her bedroom mirror. She saw a 13-year-old girl, healthy, happy, and loved. It was hard to believe that years ago she thought she didn't deserve love. Michael came in to say goodnight and found her looking at her reflection. "What do you see there, my daughter?" "I see a lucky girl. Lucky to have a family that loves her and fights for her," Emily answered. "I see so much more than that." "What do you see?" "I see a brave, smart, and generous young woman, someone who faced hardships and grew even stronger. I see my daughter, and I couldn't be prouder. Thank you, Dad, for everything. Thank you, Em, for teaching me what it truly means to be a father." They hugged tightly, a hug that represented years of struggle, growth, and unconditional love. 2 years later, Emily was in her first year of high school. She remained an excellent student and had become president of the student council. She also did volunteer work at an institution that helped children in vulnerable situations. The family's life was completely stable. Michael had found the perfect balance between work and family. Richard was happy in his retirement in Miami. Maria had truly become a member of the family. Lily, now 11 years old, was a happy and confident girl. She continued visiting her mother regularly, and Karen had shown significant improvement in her behavior, though she still wasn't ready for daily interaction. One Saturday afternoon, the whole family was gathered in the backyard when a special letter arrived. It was an invitation for Emily to participate in a youth leadership program in Washington, D.C. "Em, this is amazing," said Michael, reading the letter. "What is it?" she asked. "You've been selected to join a national youth leadership program. You'll spend a week in Washington, D.C. with other teens from across the country." "Really, how did this happen?" "Your teacher must have recommended you because of your social work and your grades," explained Richard. "Can I go?" "Of course you can. We're so proud," said Michael. The following week, Emily traveled to Washington, D.C. It was her first trip alone, and she was nervous but excited. The program brought together 50 young people from all over the U.S. to discuss social projects and community leadership. During the week, Emily gave presentations about her work with vulnerable children and shared her own story of resilience. Her maturity and eloquence impressed educators and peers alike. On the last day of the program, she called home to talk about her experience. "Dad, it was incredible. I met young people from all over the country who also want to make a difference," she said excitedly. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. How did your presentations go?" "They went really well. Several people came up to me afterward to talk more about my story. And you know what? I realized our family isn't the only one that's faced hardships and managed to rebuild." "That's true, Em. You're not alone in this journey." It made me even more determined to help other families. When Emily returned from Washington, D.C., she was even more focused on her life goals. She began planning a project to create a support group for children dealing with family conflicts. "Dad, can we use our living room once a week to bring together kids who need support?" she asked. "Of course, sweetheart. Our home can always be a place of help and comfort." "And will you all help? Grandpa could tell stories, Maria could teach cooking, and you could talk about how parents can improve." "Count us in, Em. Your idea is wonderful," said Richard. The Family of Heart project started small with just 5 children. But little by little, it grew. Emily, with her family's help, created a safe space where kids could talk about their family struggles and learn coping strategies. Maria taught the children how to cook, showing that preparing food was an act of love. Richard told stories that conveyed important values. Michael spoke with parents who were interested in participating. How did you learn to be so wise?" one of the children in the group asked. "I learned that it doesn't matter what happens to us. What matters is how we choose to respond," Emily answered. "But sometimes it's hard to choose to be happy." "It is hard. But every day we choose happiness, it gets a little easier the next day." The project continued growing and caught the attention of the local press. Emily was interviewed by the newspaper and television, always sharing her story with maturity and purpose. What would you say to a child going through what you went through? The reporter asked. I'd tell them it's not their fault. That she deserves love and respect, and that there's always hope, even when it seems like there isn't, replied Emily. And for the adults who are watching, that they pay attention to the children around them. Sometimes a child is suffering in silence, waiting for someone to notice and help them. After the interview, several people reached out wanting to support the project. Donations started coming in, and Emily managed to rent a larger space to accommodate more children. By 16, Emily was already recognized as a young leader in her community. Her project served over 50 children and families, and she had built a small team of volunteers to help. One special afternoon, she received an unexpected call. Emily, it's Karen. Hi, Aunt Karen. How are you? I'm well, thank you. I was wondering if you'd agree to meet with me. I know it's been a long time since we talked, and I'd like to see you in person. Emily hesitated. 4 years had passed since Karen had left home. Can I think about it? Of course, sweetheart. I wanted to tell you how proud I am of who you've become. I read about your project in the paper. Thank you, Aunt Karen. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I wanted you to know you've taught me so much about strength and generosity. Even when I was cruel to you, you were never cruel to me. Everyone deserves a second chance, Aunt Karen. You really believe that? I do. People can change if they truly want to. Can we meet next week? With your father present, of course. Emily thought for a moment. Yes, but I want Lily there too. Of course, thank you, Em. Thank you so much. When Emily told the family about Karen's request, the reactions were mixed. Are you sure you want to do this? Asked Michael. I am, Dad. I think it's time. What if she hasn't really changed? If she hasn't, at least I'll know I tried. And that will give me peace. You're not obligated to forgive or welcome her back into your life, said Richard. I know, Grandpa, but I want to give her this chance. For myself, too. The meeting was set for the family's home on a Sunday afternoon. Karen arrived promptly, visibly nervous. She looked different, thinner, with graying hair and simple clothes. Hi, everyone, she said timidly. Hi, Mom, said Lily, hugging her. Hi, Aunt Karen, said Emily, greeting her politely. They sat in the living room, all a little tense at first. Karen, how have you been? Asked Michael. I'm better. Still in therapy, working at a small shop, building a new life. That's good. Karen said, turning to her stepdaughter. I want to thank you for agreeing to see me. You're welcome, Aunt Karen. I want you to know these years away have been the hardest of my life, but also the most important. Why? Because they forced me to really look at who I was, and I didn't like what I saw. Emily nodded, listening carefully. I was insecure and afraid. Afraid you'd take the place I thought was mine. Afraid Michael would abandon me. Afraid I wasn't good enough. And now? Now I understand love isn't a competition. There was room for all of us in this family, and I destroyed that with my own insecurity. Aunt Karen, why did you treat me that way? Karen took a deep breath before answering. Because you reminded me I wasn't the first woman in Michael's life, that there was someone before me he loved deeply. Instead of respecting that, I was jealous of an innocent child. You were jealous of me? Yes, and that's unforgivable. You were just a child who had lost her mother and needed love. Instead of giving you love, I treated you like a rival. Emily was silent for a moment, processing Karen's words. Aunt Karen, you hurt me so much. I know, Em, and I regret it every day. But I forgive you. You... What? I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve to live without anger in my heart. Karen began to cry. Em, you're so much more generous than I ever was. I've learned that holding on to grudges only hurts us in the end. Can I hug you? Emily hesitated for just a second, then stood up and hugged Karen. It was a hug of forgiveness, not reconciliation, but it was sincere. Thank you, Em. Thank you for giving me this chance. You're welcome, Aunt Karen. The rest of the meeting went more smoothly. Karen talked about her new life, her therapy, and her efforts to become a better person. There were no promises of family reconciliation, but there was mutual understanding. When Karen left, the family stayed behind to talk about the encounter. "How do you feel, Em?" asked Michael. "I feel good. It was nice to see her taking responsibility for her mistakes." "And you, Lily?" "I'm happy Em forgave Mom. It shows how special my sister is." "Em, I'm so proud of you," said Richard. "It was very mature of you to give her that opportunity." "Thanks, Grandpa. But it doesn't mean things will go back to how they were. Of course not. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting or accepting bad behavior in the future." "Exactly. But now I can move forward with a lighter heart." From that day on, Karen kept in occasional contact with the family, always respecting the boundaries they set. She never lived in the house again, but was able to attend some special family events, always under supervision. Emily remained focused on her projects and studies. At 17, she was accepted into one of the country's top universities to study psychology. "Dad, I'm going to miss home," she said when she received the acceptance letter. "We'll miss you too, sweetheart, but we're so proud. Can I keep working on the Family of Heart project even from a distance?" "Of course. Maria and I will keep things running here, and you can guide us over video calls when you can. And during breaks, I'll come back to help in person. Whenever you want, Em. This will always be your home." Before leaving for university, Emily organized a farewell party. She invited all the kids from the project, school friends, neighbors, and of course the whole family. During the party, she gave an emotional speech. "Everyone, when I was little, I thought my life would always be hard and sad. But you showed me that family is who chooses to stay with us and love us unconditionally. Dad, thank you for learning to be the best father in the world. Grandpa, thank you for saving me and giving me a new chance at happiness. Maria, thank you for never giving up on me. Lily, thank you for being the best sister I could ask for. And to the kids in the project, always remember you deserve love and respect. Don't settle for less. And when you grow up, help other kids too." Everyone clapped, moved by her words. Emily had become an inspiration to the whole community. At university, she stood out from her first semester. Her personal experiences and social work gave her a unique perspective on family psychology. She stayed in constant touch with her family through daily video calls. During breaks, she returned home and dedicated herself fully to the Family of Heart project. In her third year, Emily began writing a book about her experiences. She wanted to document not just the pain she had endured, but especially the transformation and healing her family had gone through. "Dad, I'm writing a book about our story," she shared during one of their video calls. "What a wonderful idea, Em. It will help many families." That's the intention. I want to show that it's possible to rebuild a family, even after many mistakes. And what will the title be? Family of Heart, How to Transform Pain into Love. Perfect, my daughter. The book was completed when Emily was in her final year of college. She found a small publisher interested in the story, and they agreed to publish it. The launch took place in Miami, at a local bookstore. The whole family was there, along with the children from the project and many friends. It was a moment of celebration, not just for the book, but for the entire journey of overcoming. "Em, what do you hope people take away from this book?" asked a journalist during the launch. "I hope they understand that family isn't perfect, that everyone makes mistakes, but it's possible to fix those mistakes when there's a genuine desire to change and true love. And for the children going through difficult situations, that they never give up hope, that they seek help, that they talk to trusted adults, and that they remember they are not the problem. Nothing that happens is their fault." The book was well received and sold well regionally. More important than commercial success was its impact. Many families reached out, sharing similar situations and asking for guidance. Emily graduated with honors in psychology. Her thesis, Childhood Resilience in Family Conflicts, received top marks. On graduation day, the whole family was there. Seeing Emily on stage, receiving her diploma, was an emotional moment for everyone. "Grandpa, thank you for showing up in that kitchen so many years ago," she said during the celebration dinner. "I'm the one who's grateful for giving me the chance to be a real grandfather," Richard replied. "And now? What will you do?" Lily asked. "I'm going back home to expand the Family of Heart project. I want to turn it into a larger organization that can help more families." "Count on us for everything," Michael said. Emily returned to Miami and at 22 officially founded the Family of Heart NGO. With the family's help and several volunteers, she secured a bigger space and structured a more comprehensive program. The organization offered free family therapy, support groups for children, guidance for parents and training for educators to identify vulnerable situations. "You've turned your pain into purpose," said Maria, now over 60, but still active in the project. "We did it, Ms. Maria, all of us together." The NGO grew quickly and gained national recognition. Emily was invited to speak at psychology and social work conferences across the country. At 25, she received a National Young Social Entrepreneur Award. The ceremony was in Washington, D.C., and the whole family traveled to attend. "Everyone," Emily said in her acceptance speech, "this award isn't just mine. It belongs to my whole family, who taught me that true love has the power to transform any situation. I want to dedicate this especially to my grandfather, Richard, who had the courage to face a difficult situation to protect a child. To my father, Michael, who learned it's never too late to be the father your children deserve. To Maria, who was my silent protector. To my sister Lily, who taught me love knows no competition. And also to Karen, who showed me people can change, and that forgiveness sets the forgiver free." In the audience, Karen wept quietly. She had been invited to the ceremony and was moved to be included in the speech. Afterward, the whole family gathered for dinner. It was incredible to see how far they had all come. Your mother Sarah would be so proud," Richard said. "I feel like she's always been with us, Grandpa, especially during the hardest times." She definitely was, and still is. Today, at 28, Emily is a respected psychologist specializing in family therapy. Her NGO serves over 300 families a year and has branches in 5 cities across the Southeast. She married a colleague she met at a conference, and together they decided to adopt a child who had gone through family trauma similar to what Emily experienced. "We want to give a child the same second chance my family gave me," she explained when announcing their decision. The adopted child, an 8-year-old boy named Jake, quickly adapted to the family. Emily applied everything she had learned about love, patience, and building healthy bonds. Michael, now a grandfather, devotes himself fully to his granddaughters and adopted grandson. Lily, 25, became a teacher and volunteers at her sister's NGO. Richard, at 82, remains active and is still the official storyteller of the Family of Heart. His health is good and he takes pride every day in the family he helped rebuild. Maria, now retired, lives in a small house next to the family and is considered the official grandmother to all the children. Her own children, now adults, moved to Miami and remain part of the extended family. Karen, after years of therapy and personal growth, managed to rebuild a respectful relationship with everyone. She never moved back in with the family, but attends special events and maintains a healthy bond with her daughters. One special afternoon, Emily organized a family gathering to make an important announcement. "Everyone, I have some news," she said, smiling. "What is it?" Lily asked, curious. "I'm pregnant." The joy was overwhelming, hugs, tears, and celebration. "What's it going to be like when the baby comes?" Jake asked. "It'll be wonderful, my love. You'll be the big brother and help take care of the baby. I'll teach them everything I know." "Of course you will, and we'll all raise this child together with so much love." 9 months later, Sarah was born, a healthy, lively little girl. The name was a tribute to Emily's birth mother. Your mom would be so moved to know her granddaughter carries her name," Michael said, cradling the baby. "I feel like she's here with us, Dad. Our family is complete." In the maternity ward, 4 generations stood together. Richard, the great-grandfather, Michael, the grandfather, Emily, the mother, and little Sarah. It was the embodiment of a family rebuilt through love, forgiveness, and determination. Maria organized their homecoming, preparing everything with her usual care. Lily decorated the nursery. Jake made drawings for his baby sister. Even Karen sent a delicate gift. "Grandpa," Emily said a few days after coming home, "thank you for changing the course of our story." I just planted a seed. You all nurtured this beautiful family." "And what a family. Look, you, Dad, me, Jake, Sarah, Lily, Maria, even Karen in her own way." "That's right. We grew and learned to include instead of exclude. And little Sarah will grow up knowing family is about choice, love, and mutual care." "Exactly. She'll never go through what you did. Never. And if she or any other child in our family ever faces hardship, we'll be here to protect and support them." Years passed. The Family of Heart became a national model for supporting families in crisis. Emily's book was reprinted multiple times and translated into other languages. Sarah grew up in an environment of unconditional love. By 5, she was already participating in the NGO's activities, handing out drawings to the children they served. Jake, now a teenager, chose to follow in his adoptive mother's footsteps and is studying to become a psychologist. He often shares his own story of overcoming adversity with the younger children. On a special afternoon, when Sarah turned 5, the whole family gathered to celebrate. It was remarkable to see how far that group had come since the dark days, nearly 2 decades earlier. Sarah said, climbing onto her mother's lap. "Tell me the story of our family." "Which story, sweetheart?" "The story of how you all became a real family." Emily looked around and saw everyone smiling. It was a story worth telling and retelling. Once upon a time, there was a girl who felt very alone. And so Emily began to tell, once again, the story of pain that turned into love, of rejection that became acceptance, of a family that nearly fell apart but chose to rebuild itself. Sarah listened with shining eyes, even though she already knew the story by heart. It was her story too, the story of the family she was born into. When Emily finished, Sarah asked, "And did they live happily ever after?" "No, my love. Yes, they lived happily ever after, but they also kept working every day to stay happy. Because family is something we build every single day." "I see. And will our family always be like this?" "Always, my dear, forever." The end. Now tell us, what did you think of this story of resilience and family love? Do you believe Emily made the right choices by forgiving and rebuilding those relationships? Share your thoughts in the comments. We love reading your honest opinions. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you won't miss other inspiring stories about family, forgiveness, and new beginnings. Your support motivates us to keep sharing stories that truly make a difference.